Welcome everyone, this is Kerjims channel. Now we are back to our new episodes of two semi-reality champions and comparison featured by Wild League of Legends versus the Mobile Legends by rank. But before that, please like and subscribe to my channel and don't forget to click the bell icon so you will be notified to our new next episode video. Let's do this!
Master Yi comes from the Vuju village, a place isolated in the mountains in the province of Varl. Looking at the map of Ionia, you may notice that it is right on the edge of the Noxian conquered territory. So despite the village being very well hidden, it's not hard to guess what happens to this village. This is where Yi was born, and it is here where he studied the ways of the sword. Just like all the other local children, he admired all the legendary blade masters, dressed in silk robes that carried blades which had poems written about them. Yi's parents crafted swords, so all the blade masters who visited their shop became familiar with young Yi. Every morning he would train with his mother the way of the sword, and every evening he would explore the art of poetry with his father. Later, when Yi grew up, he studied under the Vuju masters, which made his parents very proud. Indeed, his early training with his parents turned Yi into an incredible student, and soon the whole village knew him as young Master Yi. It didn't take long and Yi started wondering about the rest of Ionia. He spent his entire life in this hidden Vuju village, but from the tallest towers he could see places no one else ever mentioned. His natural curiosity urged him to journey down the mountain with a blade in his hand, but his teacher stopped him, revealing the truth of their art. The swordsmanship of Vuju was far too precious to be shared. It was too sacred to draw blood with it. So for centuries, Vuju was hidden in isolation, with no outsiders knowing what its swordsmanship is truly capable of. But that all changed when Yi saw smoke rising from the shores. Noxian warbands arrived, conquering settlement after settlement, advancing deeper and deeper into Ionia. Yi couldn't just watch all the suffering from the safety of their mountain, so he decided to break Vuju's hallowed traditions, and he ran down the mountain to save the people of Ionia. This was the first time the world truly witnessed what the swordsmanship of Vuju can do. Yi was far too fast to be seen, and his blade was far too sharp to stop before anything. He swept across the front lines in a blur, painting the lands of Ionia in more crimson colors than the Noxians themselves. Soon, word of the one-man army spread far and wide, which encouraged his fellow disciples to join the fight, and together they journeyed to Navori, where the greater war was raging. While this was happening, the Noxian commanders saw Vuju as a threat that can't be ignored. They scouted where these warriors were coming from, and they attacked their unprotected home. In a single night, the entire village was destroyed, its people and culture obliterated with chemical fire. When the Ionian civil army drove Noxians out of their capital, during the battle for the Placidium, the war ended and Yi returned to his village as the only surviving Vuju master. But when he arrived, he found nothing. The magic of the land itself was defiled, and everyone he had known and loved was gone. Slain in spirit, if not in body, Yi became the attack's final casualty. With no other Vuju disciples alive, he realized he was the only person in the world with the knowledge of Vuju. Out of desperation, he began to obsessively train to bury the guilt of his survival, but the wisdom he learned from his own masters faded over the years. He began to doubt if a single person can carry forward an entire heritage, until he encountered something unexpected. A curious monkey-like Vastaya challenged him to a duel. Reluctantly, Master Yi accepted this challenge and defeated him with ease. But the Vastaya refused to give up, returning day after day with increasingly clever tricks that forced Yi to react and improvise. For the first time in years, Yi felt the spirit of Vuju once more. The two clashed for weeks, until the bruised stranger finally knelt on the ground and introduced himself as Kong of the Shimon tribe. He begged to learn from Yi, who saw a new disciple in this reckless but determined fighter. Through teaching, Yi found his purpose restored. He would pass on the ways of Vuju. With that, he gifted his pupil an enchanted staff, and an honorific as a sign of this vow. From that day onward, Kong was known as Wukong. Together, they now travel the First Lands, as Yi seeks to honor the legacy of his lost home. This was Master Yi's bio. Just a quick note, Wukong's staff was crafted by the legendary Dorant, who's not Durant. Those are two separate crafters. Durant was from Demacia. Now let's have a look at the story Homecoming, which pushes Yi's story forward and reveals some interesting new information. The story begins with Yi meditating a few inches above the ground in the mountains of Barl. The breeze was cool and local birds were announcing morning. When Yi descended back on the ground, he dusted off his robe and noticed a couple of loose fallen hair, most of them black with a couple of white, suggesting that Yi's depression is sinking in. After that, he grabbed his bag and continued his hike, passing trees that once swayed with life but now stood still. Further up the mountain, the landscape ahead began to change, turning from vivid colors to sickly brown hues. After a few moments of climbing, Yi heard a voice and immediately grabbed the hilt of his blade. The voice told him that it didn't expect anyone up here, and then it asked if he's also looking for his herd. Yi loosened his grip when he noticed it was an aging woman, a farmer, and he bowed. Apparently the area where they were was a place where animals often got stuck. The woman asked Yi why was he here. He surely didn't look like a farmer himself. Yi replied that it was just a good day for a hike. The woman jokingly asked him if he's here to train them. Maybe the Noxians are coming back. Yi replied with a poem, "Where the sun sets once, it will again." The farmer chuckled. She said that if that day comes, she'll sail off this island. But until that happens, she asked Yi to help an old woman. Yi agreed and they ventured into a wooded area. After a short walk, they arrived near a baby animal whining in agony. It was bound by thick veins that tightened as the creature struggled. The farmer told Yi that this was Lhasa, a young, dumb member of the herd she was looking for. But the animal was far too valuable to her to leave it here. After a moment, he speculated that the animal might be cursed. Something unnatural was happening here. This is when the story revealed a really cool new information. Ever since Noxus defiled the lands and ruined natural magic, the spirit of Ionia couldn't sustain itself anymore. It was relying on natural magic, but now that it's gone, it's looking for other sources of energy. This includes life. The spirit of Ionia is not afraid of taking life if it has to. Yi was considering his options, but in the end he drew two blades from the sheaths on his boots. The vines seemed to cower as the blades got near them. There was a moment of hesitation, but he closed his eyes with the words, Emai Fa'ir, his ancestral prayer. A blink of an eye later, the vines were dangling loose, and the animal was running free. The woman happily chased it down the hill and hugged it. When she turned back to thank Yi, he was already on his way further up the mountain. All she managed to do was to quickly shout at him. She asked him what he was training for. The war was over. But he did not look back. It wasn't over for him. After another hour, he finally reached the barrens at the top. There was a village in ruins, invaded by the same vines he saw earlier. He headed towards the burial ground, passing by the ruins of houses, schools, shrines, and later his parents' workshop. Indeed, this was Yi's home. The graves were arranged in perfect symmetry, marked by blades piercing every single one of them. This was a memorial Yi created to the warriors, teachers, and students. He placed a hand on every hilt of every sword, with words of prayer. Vuju honors your memory. May your name be remembered. Rest, find place in the land. He did not skip a single grave. His voice soon grew tired, but he had only 3 graves left. The first one was marked by a hammer. Yi pulled a peach out of his bag and placed it beside it. It was a gift from Wukong to Master Doran. At this point, Yi was talking directly to Doran. He said that Wukong couldn't journey with him, and that he loves his staff, almost as much as he loves making fun of the helmet Doran gave him. Then he moved to the final 2 graves. He addressed them as Emai and Fa'ir, ancient words for mother and father. Those 2 graves weren't marked with blades, but with golden sheaths. They perfectly held Yi's 2 short swords. After this, he reached into his bag again and pulled out his helm. Its 7 lenses were designed to show Yi his surroundings, but it's not the only thing they could do. Yi sat down and began his meditation. Once again, he lifted off the ground without even knowing it. He relaxed his mind and thought about nothing at all. When he opened his eyes again, he could see everything. Death and decay with little hints of life. He saw spirits from the realm beyond his own. The vines trapped them here and drained their essence, as they did with the animal before. Yi knew that any spirit strong enough would break free and leave this place immediately. So what remained here was corrupted, or soon to be. The spirits cried out in suffering as Yi blinked, and the physical world returned. For a moment, he pretended not to bear the weight on his shoulders. But then, he blinked again. The spirits continued to cry and he drew his blade. In a flash, he dashed around in a blur and quickly returned to his place. He was so fast he seemed motionless. Suddenly, the creeping vines were in pieces. After this, the spirits didn't cry out anymore. Instead, they sang with joy. As the spirits melted away, the land echoed its bliss, and green color slowly returned to the flora around. He managed to smile a bit when he took off his helmet. He reached into his bag again, going through the items he packed. Fruits, nuts, char, and flint. Things for himself, and things to cleanse the land for good. He wouldn't do it now. Not yet. He pulled out a thin pen and a scroll. The page had some crossed numbers written on it. 60, 54, 41, and he added a few more strokes. Below these markings were more words. 30 days between clearings. He knew soon he would send his home off in flames. But not now. Not yet. This story was pretty amazing. Before we end this video, I quickly want to talk about two things. First of all, I love how the two words "Am I" and "Fire" returned. Those of you who read the lore frequently know that these words came from the Confessions of a Broken Blade. There, Riven was learning these prayers and Yasuo corrected her pronunciation. If you are like me and you remember this, the second he mentioned it, you knew exactly what was happening. You didn't even need to finish the story to know that he was talking about his mother and father. I love how the writers made a full circle with this. Also, it is now confirmed that Doran was from Ionia. Until now, we didn't even know where he was from. I always speculated that he was from Orn's Mountain, where all the legendary blacksmiths are from. So this is a nice surprise. Lastly, it is really cool to see he struggle with his past, even now. And I really hope that in time, Riot plans to show us how he sets his own home on fire. It is really cool to see a storyline that was already pretty fleshed out, getting even better.